All right, guys, we are back here on the GameSpot stage at E3 2014. Once again, I'm your host, Sean McGinnis, and I'm joined by Ralph Fulton, the creative director of Forza Horizon 2. Ralph, thanks a lot for jumping on the stage with us.
Not at all. Great to be here. Thanks, Sean.
Cool. So you guys announced Forza Horizon 2 pretty recently, within the past couple weeks or so, but it was at the Microsoft press conference that we got our first really good look at the game, and it's quite a departure from the original one. You guys are going from the mountains of Colorado, a very American, Rocky Mountain kind of setting, and you're taking it across the Atlantic all the way to Southern Europe. And this is something that we talked about the other night, but what was the reason behind moving it to Southern Europe, that sort of Mediterranean coast kind of setting?
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I loved Colorado in the first game, and incredible setting. And when we started looking at this game, we were like, okay, where can we find in the world, and we looked the whole world over, that had the same things and maybe even more, right? So we looked all over the world. We had a bunch of criteria that we absolutely needed to hit. We wanted somewhere that was just stunningly beautiful, really diverse, varied, interesting locations that people will really want to explore. And I guess the interesting thing is when we first looked at the original Horizon, both the south of France and the north of Italy scored really highly. Not as highly as Colorado did, so we went with that.
Right.
But this time on Xbox One, we're able to have this bigger world. So we looked back at our scoring and our criteria. We threw a net over that whole region, that whole Mediterranean coastal region. And it really ticked all our boxes. So we said, let's go to Europe. Let's bring the Horizon Festival to Europe.
Cool. Let's talk about the festival itself. Obviously, that was a sort of a key aspect of the original game, the hub from which you would sort of explore outward toward the rest of the world. What's its role in the second game?
Yeah, so the Horizon Festival, I guess, has expanded since the first game. It's branched out overseas. It's come to Europe, which is in many ways the spiritual home of the great music festivals. And it's still the centerpiece of the game. And it represents for us the combination of awesome cars and car culture, and also festival culture and music, which is an incredibly important part of the Horizon game as well. It brings them both together, and it's the place you'll go to right at the start of the game. That's your first trip to the festival. But beyond that, you're going to go out on a road trip. You're going to go out on much longer journeys from destination to destination, competing in championships, exploring, finding things on the way. And at the end of a road trip, you'll look back to the festival for a big awards party where all the characters in the game, all the drivatars are rewarded for how they've done and the championships they've won.
All right. Now, with the original Forza Horizon, you guys dabbled in a little bit of light storytelling. You had some characters involved there. What's your approach to that this time? How does it compare with that original Forza Horizon?
So Horizon 2 uses drivatar technology that I just mentioned. First launched in Forza 5 last year, and for me, it just changed racing, right? No longer do you have to have fictional drivers with made-up names. Suddenly, your races and your world now in Horizon 2 is filled with real people, your friends, your family, people that you can relate to in the real world. So we've actually found in Horizon 2, we don't need to tell a story. We don't need to have fictional characters to make up the game, because actually the drivatars do all that heavy lifting for us. They're people that you already know. You can relate to the way they drive, the things that they do, and it actually makes the narrative all about you, all about your friends, which I think is much more compelling.
And if it's Turn 10 community manager Brian Ekberg, I know that character is going to drive like a total maniac and is totally going to cut me off at the most inopportune moments of a critical race.
Absolutely. And you know what's really cool for me about drivatar is the way an element of racing games, which maybe hasn't moved on for many years, suddenly is something you talk about outside the game, right? You and Brian will talk about the things that his drivatar did or your drivatar did. The same thing happens to me. People tweet me about the things my drivatar is doing in races in Forza 5. I think we're going to find that with Horizon 2. These events become water cooler moments.
Mm-hmm. So we had a question here about the soundtrack. I forget who that was, but music, the whole festival was obviously a pretty big part of the original game.
Yeah.
Does the vibe of the overall soundtrack and the licensed song, does that change with the setting, moving from Colorado to Southern Europe, or is it kind of the overall tone going to stay the same?
So we're excited about the music in Horizon 2. I think we did a great job in the first one. More people tweet me about the soundtrack in Horizon 1 than about any other aspect of the game. So our strategy for this game is just to keep doing it more and more right. So the guy who curated the soundtrack in the first one, Rob DeBank, he's this English DJ festival organizer. He's back on board. He's curated the soundtrack for Horizon 2. And we've just given him more room to express himself. So we have twice as many radio stations, more than double the amount of music on disc. So we're actually bringing you more and more music, more diversity. We really hope that you're going to find songs you love, but you're also going to fall in love with new music as well.
So there's this moment that we just saw in the footage here, and it's about 30 seconds past, but you're driving along the road, and your green driving line all of a sudden cuts to the left and into this big open field. It's maybe a vineyard or something like that, but basically it's one of those moments where I was playing for the first time. I was like, wait, this can't be right. This can't be right. What am I doing? I can barely see. I'm in a cockpit view. What's going on here? I'm just smashing into hay bales. But it seems like, getting off the road and kind of taking advantage of the openness of an open world is kind of a focus for you guys, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We wanted to create a truly open world this time. We've taken the view that if there aren't walls or barriers in real life, well, there shouldn't be them barriers or walls in our game, right? We want you to be able to drive on the road. We want you to be able to explore anywhere off the road as well. So what you're talking about, driving through a vineyard, we're in southern Tuscany here, so there's lots of vineyards there, or across crop fields, through forests, over hills. It's a whole new dimension to exploration and driving within Horizon 2. What it means is we've actually got so much more space to fill with cool stuff to do in cars, right? I'm talking about races, I'm talking about non-racing gameplay as well, challenges and secrets and things to discover.
Now, how do you balance those sort of like crazy detours with the fact that quite often you're going to be driving a McLaren P1 or a really, really fancy sports car that was designed to be driven on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout the game, I think there's a risk-reward thing going on there, right? Depending on the car you're in, sometimes it could be faster to stay on the tarmac, if you're in a really high-speed performance car. Sometimes, though, if you're in an off-roader, a Ford Raptor, or some of the really extreme cars we've got in the game, it will pay to go off-road. But ultimately, Horizon, the whole All-Up franchise is about having fun, doing things which maybe aren't things you would do in real life, but things which are just crazy fun. And sometimes driving across farmland, through crop fields in a Lamborghini Huracan, it's just crazy fun, and we want you to encourage you to do that.
And we've got about a minute or two left here, but I would be just absolutely trounced by our hardcore racing fans in the audience if I didn't talk to you on some level about just, the physics of the driving model.
Yeah.
Obviously, your connection to Forza Motorsport lends itself to any number of questions about the simulation nature of what you're trying to go for here. The original game, you had a whole bunch of driving assists that you could toggle on to make the game pretty hardcore, but at the same time, you didn't drill down into the really esoteric stuff, gear ratios and all that. What's your approach this time around?
So a couple of things here. So we start from the starting point of having Forza Motorsport 5's engine. That's where we started from. We've augmented it, we've enhanced it in lots of different ways. But at its core, we have that same physics system, physics simulation that you see in Forza 5. It still runs at 360 hertz. So there's incredible complexity and sophistication in that physics simulation. A couple of things we do. First of all, because we're driving in an open world, and the way you drive in an open world is different from how you drive on Laguna Seca or Nürburgring, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we re-round off the edges of some of the difficulty in that simulation while still having the complexity underlying it. But we've listened to our fans. From the first game, a lot of guys said, hey, I want to tune my car. I want to be able to play with the suspension, with the gear ratios. So we've brought that back for Forza Horizon 2. In Horizon 2, you can upgrade your car cosmetically in terms of engine parts, but you can also tune it in exactly the same way you would in Forza Motorsport 5. So I hope people are going to be excited to experiment with that in September.
All right, Ralph, sounds great. I had a lot of fun playing it the other night. I'm probably going to try to sneak over there again at some point.
Be my guest.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us on the stage.
Thanks, Sean.
Cool, so that was your look at Forza Horizon 2, courtesy of Ralph Fulton from Playground Games. We're going to cut to a little break here, and we'll be back shortly with Dragon Age Inquisition.
Hey folks, Homer Ibarra here, bringing you the live coverage of E3 2014. GameSpot's coverage continues. I am with Jerome Roding, community manager here at the Sony booth. What's up, Jerome?
Very good, very good.
So you guys are showing off some Killzone Shadowfall Intercept online co-op play. What's going on with that?
Yeah, well, it's you have like a team of 4 players. You're an intelligence squad alpha. So what you're trying to do is you have like 3 different points where you want to have some intelligence. So you want to capture that from the Helgas people. The goal is to do it as quickly as possible. So you're racking up points. So you need to have all 3 of those intercept points. You need to have them in your possession to gather points. Every action you do in the game, so you kill somebody, you use your abilities, you get points as well.
Well, let's take a look at some gameplay right here. Go ahead and call, push in. So where are we right now? What map are we on?
Let me see. This is. Let me check. Oh, this is the market. This is the market map.
Okay.
So we have. Let me see who's playing. Oh, we got 1 medic on here. We got assault on here and a marksman. And there's also a the tactician is playing on the other screen. And tactician has the ability to place turrets. The medic, as you can see here, he has the ability to heal people or to revive people. He's like a little drone that pulses out his healing abilities. And then he can also drop 2 supply boxes. He's not really a guy that should be on the forefront of the field because he's more of he's a supportive role.
Gotcha.
If you look at the other screens, Assault, for instance, he has the ability to capture the points much quicker than the other one. So if the Helga staff capture the point, he can capture the point really quickly. And then he has like the speed dash ability as well, and he can.
Are all 3 of these guys playing on the same team right now, or?
They're all playing on the same team.
Oh, cool. So let's talk about the amount of multiplayers that you can have on one map. Is it like 12v12 or?
This is purely co-op. So what you do?
Purely co-op. Okay.
Purely co-op. There's like in the Killzone, we also have a multiplayer, and it's 24 players max.
Oh, cool.
But this is purely co-op. We're now starting off Intercept. It's pure co-op, 4 people against AI. So everybody has a specific role in this version.
Cool. And where does this fit into the general Killzone universe? Where does this plot line lie?
Well, the plot line is that they have to maintain those points because they want to intercept intelligence from the Helghast. That's the whole deal. And the quicker they do it, the quicker they reach the score limit. So the score limit now is on 1,500 points. So if they reach it in time, they jump on the leaderboard. So they'll get more points. And the quicker you do it, the better it is for your faction.
Okay, cool. And let's talk just tech. You guys are running 1080p, 60 frames, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Looks beautiful, man.
Yeah. It's one of our. Well, that's the thing, you know. With the game is out, Killzone is out. We have like the whole engine is optimized, so we could build from that, and that's a really good benefit of Intercept in this one.
Cool. So let's talk about where you guys are at in terms of release. Are you guys pretty close to letting this thing fly, or what?
Yeah. It's going to be released the 24th. I think the 24th of June.
Okay.
Yeah. So
right around the corner.
It's right around the corner. It's free for season pass holders, and it's going to be. There's also going to be a standalone version. So this version when released on the 24th is for people that have the game, and they're going to be a standalone version in August. So you don't have to have the game to enjoy Intercept.
All right, great. Jerome, thank you so much for joining us real quick. And again, let's just remind the folks at home, name of the game and release date.
Yeah, Killzone Intercept is going to fall on 24th of June.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining us. GameSpot's coverage of E3 2014 continues. We'll throw it back to the stage right now.
Hey folks, and we are back here at the GameSpot stage at E3 2014. Once again, I'm your host, Sean McInnes, and I've got Mark Dara from BioWare, the executive producer on Dragon Age Inquisition. Yep. Mark, thanks for joining us on stage.
Oh, it's great to be here.
So you guys have been getting a pretty good amount of buzz so far here at E3.
Yeah, it's been a good E3 for us. Yeah, we've been showing a lot of the game, so it's been getting a lot of good buzz.
I mean, people seem to have responded really well to the direction that you guys are going with Dragon Age Inquisition, which in my estimation, if I had to describe it in a nutshell, which is just blow up the game, expand the scale, and give it the kind of like visual identity that it's never really had in the past, this like really, really intriguing art style while just expanding the whole thing, right?
Yeah, really, I mean, this is in a way really the Dragon Age game we've always been trying to make or wanting to make. We just haven't had the time or the scale to do it. So we're really, in this one, trying to bring exploration back to a BioWare game. So we have that core story that we're known for with the characters and relationships that really draw you in, but now we can give you a lot more space to explore and immerse yourself in a world.
All right, great. Now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to respond in the GameSpot chat that we have going on right here, or send them my way on Twitter. I am at @smcguinness. Let's take a look at the footage that you guys have brought along here. Can you describe this particular area?
Yeah, so this is actually the Hinterlands. It's actually an area that's just outside of Redcliffe Village, for people that are familiar with Dragon Age. This area is bigger than all of Dragon Age Origins put together, and it's one of just a multitude of regions that we're actually having in Dragon Age Inquisition. So this is a more settled area, but it's actually in the grips of conflict between the Mages and the Templars. We'll see that right here. Mages and Templars are kind of going at it down there. But we'll take you to less explored areas, Frostback Mountains, out into bogs and deep desert. The thing is that for Dragon Age Inquisition, the scope of the story is so big that we needed the breadth of terrain. We're crossing two nations, so we couldn't just have one region. We needed to be able to pull it out and just have it be able to go where it needed to go from the storytelling perspective.
So one of the tricky things about big open games is that scale alone doesn't make things interesting. You need that emergent gameplay and all the little in-between areas when you're not doing a critical mission. So in terms of what you guys are doing with Inquisition, what's the incentive to just explore and take things at your own pace?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about open world gameplay. For us, what we really make sure is that every area you go to is important to the story. You're doing things to further the power of the Inquisition. This is an organization that you ultimately lead, and it gives you the power to do things you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. You reach a fortress, the doors are locked behind you, you can't sneak in the back. You have troops, you have 100 guys that you can use to bash the door in to get you through that front door. And ultimately what you're doing in exploration is things that are either going to make you better, so gathering crafting materials in order to make yourself better armor and arms, or you're doing things that are actually furthering the renown and power of the Inquisition to draw people to your cause.
All right, so we're starting to get quite a flood of questions here. Maximilian on Twitter is asking about the controls in the game because, from Dragon Age Origins to Dragon Age 2, you guys quickened the pace a little bit, made the action a little bit more immediate and quick. What are you guys doing with Inquisition?
So we're doing two things there. We're slowing down the animation to be a little bit more weight, a little bit more grounded in the world. So when a guy's swinging a two-handed sword, he's not spinning around as much. He's a little bit more grounded. The other thing is that we're bringing back tactile camera on all 5 platforms. So it was just on PC for Dragon Age Origins, didn't exist on Dragon Age 2 at all. Here you're going to be able to pull the camera back, really look at the battlefield, consider what you're doing, and really give that really fine control. If you want to do that, you'll also be able to control the game completely in real time if that's the playstyle you prefer.
Now, what was the reason behind bringing that tactical camera back? Is it just something that you are able to do now that you've got more time and you can fine-tune it?
Yeah, it's partially that. It's partially just that ultimately this is a game about leadership. This is a game about controlling a group, both the Inquisition but also your party, and it just felt very much, even just from a storytelling thematic perspective, was a very appropriate thing to bring back.
All right. Let's see here. A lot of questions about romance options.
Yeah, we always get a lot of questions about romance options.
So let's just describe it in a nutshell, because BioWare has always been very progressive about that type of thing and giving just players options and not forcing them to to live their character in a very particular way.
Yeah, I mean, I think options is a very good way to put it. We definitely want to make sure that you have as much control over the way you play your character and the way you interact with other people. So that doesn't mean romances are totally optional. We're going to try to make it as clear as possible when you're crossing that line, so you're not stumbling into a romance option by mistake.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I still remember in Dragon Age Origins, and this might be too, but Dragon Age Origins, walking into the brothel, them asking, what would you prefer, male or female? Well, the third option was, surprise me.
Yes.
So it's always been that kind of game.
Yes.
Let's see here. Some questions about importing saves from previous games.
So the way that works is Dragon Age Inquisition is definitely a great place to pick up the series if you haven't played before. What we're doing is we have a web service called the Dragon Age Keep, which you can go to and actually build a save, essentially build your choices from the previous 2 games using an interactive form. It's in closed beta right now, but we're going to be expanding that out over the summer.
All right. So, and does that give you kind of like a little story primer in case you've forgotten those details?
Exactly. If you really want to be, if you haven't played Dragon Age before and you really, really want to be up to date on the world, the Dragon Age Keep is going to give you an opportunity to really see what happened in the previous 2 games.
All right. So we're actually taking a look at a big epic dragon battle right now.
Yeah,
I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we actually were distracted and we're kind of actually pretty far into it. So I mean, dragons are actually the biggest, baddest things. They're really endgame content. They're apex predators. You really need to bring your game if you're going to fight them. One thing we've introduced for Dragon Age Inquisition is multiple target regions. So now you're not just attacking a big sort of sphere of damage. You can attack their legs. If you do enough damage, they're going to roll over onto their side, giving you access to their head to really do a lot more damage.
So, and you said that they are endgame enemies. What type of enemies are we going to be encountering along the progression towards dragons?
So one of the things we're doing in this game is we're not auto balancing the game, which means like in the very first area you're in, there will be a dragon there, and if you want to go and try to take him on at level 5, you can do that. It's probably going to be a bad idea. But we're going to really open up and leave it to the player to really decide how deeply they want to engage. A lot of humanoid creatures, obviously. This is very much a game that has a lot of people and politics in it. But the game, at its fundamental core, is about this breach in the sky, which is spitting demons out. So a lot of demons you're going to see over the course of the game.
All right. Now, Abdelrahman Keshk on Twitter is asking about types of dragons, variety. Is it sort of like just that one singular dragon in the distance that you're working towards, or is it sort of various types?
There are various types of dragons. We actually have dragonlings as well, sort of the younger dragons, but we'll be doing dragons differentiated by element, like essentially like fire breath or ice breath, as well as a few other sort of regional variations based on where in the world you actually are.
All right. Let's see. So many very, very specific questions about Dragon Age. That tends to be the kind of community that you guys have,
That's
right?
the community we have. Yes, very specific questions about Liliana's haircut or something, I suspect,
right.
Yes.
So how do you filter that kind of stuff? How do you take just that wealth of feedback from the community and use that to inform the direction of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to be open to these kinds of questions and to try to respond as best we can. Obviously, we don't want to answer questions that are going to spoil the story. I mean, even though people think they want the answer to some of these questions, there's some that the answer is not going to be. It's going to wreck things for them. So we have to be careful about what we do and do not answer.
Right, of course. Let's see. We're getting questions about platforms of the game, specifically what we're seeing here. Can you tell? Do you happen to know what platform this was?
Yeah, so this was actually captured on a PC with a controller. We will have full PC mouse and keyboard controls as well, and then like Xbox One and PS4 will have really high graphical fidelity as well. PS3 and Xbox 360 are obviously going to have a little bit lag behind a little bit there.
Yeah. Any plans for modding support on the PC version?
Maybe we've talked about it. Obviously, this game uses Frostbite 3, so that's something that doesn't currently exist for that engine. But it is something we have talked about, and so not at launch.
Right. And even if it's not official, the Dragon Age community tends to be pretty active.
They'll definitely figure it out. We've seen Dragon Age 2 stuff where we didn't have an official tool set that has shown up for sure.
Let's see. So we talked about the importing of saves and how you guys are building that tool to create your own save file in case you don't have that in case you don't have that anymore. But in terms of what you're importing, how much does that affect the events of Dragon Age Inquisition? Jared Richard on Twitter is actually asking about that specifically.
Yeah, so one thing that Dragon Age has always been about, it's much more about the world and the time than it is about a specific character. So what that means is there's sort of choices you've made that matter for the world, choices you've made that matter for characters, and those are very important. So, who's the king from Dragon Age Origins? That's really important. Ultimately, who the Warden romanced, that's actually important too, because we have characters that return. It's important to know if Morgan had a relationship with that Warden character. But some of the other choices you made maybe mattered in the moment, but didn't matter to the overall state of the world. So we're importing hundreds of choices from the previous games, so it's a lot.
All right, Mark. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'd like to apologize to the 900 people whose questions we didn't get to today.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try to answer them as best we can.
All right, great. So there you guys have it. That was your look at Dragon Age Inquisition, courtesy of our friend Mark Dara from BioWare. We're going to cut to a little break here, but we'll be right back with a check-in with none other than the host of Analog on GameSpot, Lisa Foyles.